All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to explore the brand new lunar economy and get into a huge question that, isn't science fiction anymore. Who actually owns the moon? Think about it. For pretty much all of human history, the moon was just a light in the sky. But now, with missions like Artemis II getting us ready, we're right on the verge of going back. But this time, it looks like we're going to stay. And this huge leap forward brings up this incredible new question. Now that we can actually get there, who gets to own the stuff we find? So let's really look at the moon in a new way, not just as a place to visit, but as the next great frontier, a place that's going to have its own rules, its own resources, and yeah, probably its own rivalries. To really get your head around what's at stake here, try to picture the moon as more than just a ball in the sky. Think of it as this silent gray continent. I mean, it's a landmass bigger than Africa that's been sitting up there totally untouched for 4 billion years. And with Artemis II's recent flyby, we're being reminded just how close it really is. So that's what we're going to do in this explainer. We are going to pop the hood. We're going to take the engine of this new lunar economy apart piece by piece and see exactly how it's supposed to work and what it's really made of. Okay, so any economy, right? Whether it's here on Earth or up in space, it's built on stuff, on valuable resources. So the very first question we got to ask is, what's actually inside the moon's treasure chest? Well, we're not talking about gold or oil here. The 3 key ingredients for a lunar economy are actually hidden right there in the dust itself. Let's take a closer look at what they are. First up is water ice. And no, it's not just for drinking. You find it in these craters that are always in the dark, and you can split that ice into hydrogen and oxygen. And what are those? They're the 2 main components of rocket fuel. This is the big idea, the game changer. The moon could literally become the first gas station in space. Next, you've got helium-3. This stuff is a really rare gas that comes from solar winds, and it's been building up in the lunar soil for billions of years. The potential here, it's just staggering. Scientists think helium-3 could one day power clean nuclear fusion reactors back here on Earth, giving us enough energy to power the whole planet for centuries. And finally, there's regolith, which is really just the fancy name for moon dust. Now, it might not sound like much, but it's the ultimate local building material. You can actually melt it down and feed it into massive 3D printers to build, well, everything. Landing pads, habitats, you name it. So the resources are there. We know what they are. But knowing what's up for grabs leads to the really, really tricky part. You've got to set the rules of the road. How are we going to manage this new frontier? Let's put it as simply as possible. Okay, imagine you go and set up that lunar gas station. You did all the work, right? You found the ice, you built the whole refinery. So, do you actually own it? This is where everything gets legally, complicated. See, there are 2 big legal frameworks that are kind of clashing right now. You've got the old school Outer Space Treaty from 1967. It says pretty clearly that no country can own the moon, and all its resources belong to all of humanity. But then you have the more modern Artemis Accords, and they add a huge twist. They say, yeah, you still can't own the land, but you can own the resources you mine from it. And they also bring in this idea of safety zones around your base of operations. There's actually a perfect analogy for this. Think of the moon like a public park. The Outer Space Treaty says you can't just put a fence around the whole park and call it yours. The Artemis Accords agree with that. But they ask a follow-up question. If you pick an apple from a tree inside that park, is it your apple? The Accords basically say, yes, it is. But a lot of other folks argue that that apple still belongs to everyone. And that question, the one about the apple, that gets us right to the absolute heart of this whole debate. Is this new frontier really just a case of finders keepers? So this whole thing really boils down to 2 totally different ways of looking at it. On one side, you've got the global commons view. That says the moon belongs to everyone, so any private company mining it is basically stealing from all of humanity. But on the other side, you've got the first come, first served argument. That says, hey, going to the moon is incredibly expensive and dangerous. If companies can't own what they find, why would they ever go in the first place? So, where does this whole debate leave us? Well, the answer we come up with is going to define our entire future on the moon, and everything that comes after it. The thing is, we have to remember the stakes here are they couldn't be higher. In this new Artemis era, as we're actually planning for a permanent base on the moon, we're not just building rockets anymore. We are laying the actual groundwork for a completely new branch of human civilization.
And what that means is the moon is no longer just a destination. It's the engine for everything that comes next. It's the gas station, it's the construction yard, and it's the launch pad that's going to push us to Mars and then eventually even deeper into our solar system.
So the ultimate question isn't just about ownership, you see. It's about our vision for humanity's future out there in space. And that leads me to a final thought for you. Knowing everything that's at stake, what would your priority be? A fuel station so we can explore the cosmos? Or a city so we can start a brand new world? Thanks for watching.